Hey everybody, what's up? This is the Frank and Beans podcast recapping week 4. Uh, Good news, everybody. Matt Sepchek has officially joined the podcast. So it's going to be Rick and Matt every week. And we're going to be recapping all the games. So we got a lot of things to get to this week already. We'll start with the flurry of trades that went through this week. They all included me. So I'm anxious to talk about them. The first trade we had was I traded Danny Amendola to hammer down for David Wilson. Matt, your thoughts on this trade?
I don't like this trade at all. I don't know. You trade a guy that is proven in Amendola to a guy that hasn't done anything at all.
He's proven to get hurt. That's my only thing. And at the time, I really needed a running back. And coming up, David Wilson, he has 2 games against the Eagles in the next 4 weeks. So that was my thinking behind that trade.
I don't know. I think Amendola is a good receiver when he's healthy. So I just don't know about that one.
Fair enough.
Moving on.
The next trade, Brandon Marshall and Vernon Davis. I traded away for Roddy White and Trent Richardson. Again, my thinking here was I wanted to get one of those top-notch running backs. I think Trent Richardson is one of those running backs.
I think he is, but he hasn't shown it yet. So hopefully this could be a good. Getting rid of Brandon Marshall is that's a big deal right there.
Well, my whole thinking behind that process was if I get Roddy White's hurt, but last week he played 74 of 76 snaps against the Patriots, so the ankle's getting better, and he's got a bye next week. So hopefully week 7, Roddy White is Roddy White again, and not the former shell of Roddy White as we know.
Yeah, and hopefully Trent Richardson steps up. He's another Spiller right there. 2 guys that are projected to have unbelievable seasons. But they can turn around still early. It's only going to be week 5, so you never know.
And what I would say to that is, the news just broke that Bradshaw could have season-ending neck surgery. So that means it's a ton of Trent Richardson, and the guy has scored in 2 straight games. So he's definitely starting to get it going. The third trade was I traded Tony Romo for Andre Johnson. Now my thinking behind this trade was I have Tom Brady and I have Tony Romo. The only way that Tony Romo was ever going to play would be a bye week replacement. And as hot as Tony Romo has been, and with a big game coming up against Denver, I thought now was the time to trade him. And I spin him and I get Andre Johnson out of the deal.
Right, it's a good deal for you.
So the way I look at it is I was pretty much getting Andre Johnson for nothing because Tony Romo wasn't going to see the field.
Right.
So immediately following that, I trade Andre Johnson away for Rob Gronkowski. And the news just broke, and it was texted to me by Hammer Down, was that Zach Sudfeld just got cut. So this may be the sign that Rob Gronkowski is ready to return this week. If so, it's probably the second best double dip of quarterback to tight end, right behind Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, I'm still a little leery about Gronk though. I think it might take him like 2 or 3 games to get back into game shape. So I don't know how many snaps he'll see, how many pass attempts he's going to get. Because when you're injured for that long, and it's going to take some time to come back and play in shape. So practice is a lot different than playing the game. So
right.
We'll see. His numbers last year you can't argue, but.
Right, I forget the amount of games he played. It was either 10 or 12, but he still wound up being the second best tight end in fantasy. So if I get that Rob Gronkowski, I'm extremely happy. So those were the flurry of trades. I encourage everybody to trade because trades are fun and it's awesome to talk about because everybody has their own opinion. Okay, getting back to last week's games. I know the podcast is a little late this week. I had some family issues had to take care of, so let's get right to the games. The first game up, as you guys see, is Palladino-licious making a name change after they won, taking you to the Fleeners against Optimus Stein. I got beat. It was a close game, and
Oh, it was a really close game. It was
Yeah.
probably one of the closest games I've ever seen.
For about 56 minutes, for 56 minutes of the Atlanta-New England game, it was really close. And then Zach Sudfeld fumbled that onside kick, and that's probably why he got cut.
It was like the game was tied.
With 4 minutes
Tom
to go.
Brady about to get the ball, and I text Ricky saying Ricky's butthole is all puckered up right now. And right after I sent that message, they get an onside kick.
And they go right down the field
they
and
go
score.
up 20 points on them in fantasy. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think I was the bad luck there.
Right. So that loss dropped me to 1-3, which led me to all of my trades this week. If my team was on Twitter, it would be #disgusting, #putrid. I mean, it was just bad. Vincent Jackson now with Mike Glennon at quarterback is the words can't even describe what I was feeling watching that game. But yeah, I mean, I give it to taking you to the Fleeners. I mean, Matt Ryan gets a ton of points at the end. Julio Jones becomes active down the stretch, and they get the win. They get the win, and they move to 2-2.
Well, I mean, honestly, I don't think your team is as bad as it looks on paper, because I mean, like Calvin Johnson, 44 receiving yards from Calvin Johnson. I mean,
Right.
That's just crazy. I mean, Vincent Jackson, 27 receiving yards.
So you're saying there's hope. So I can
I'm
turn
saying
this
there's
thing
hope.
around.
I don't think it's. I mean, I hope there's hope for you, but I mean, your team is better than what they're putting up.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't too happy. That's why I got rid of half of my starters this week.
And I mean, Fleener having a fucking 19.7 point game.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
So
All right. Next up.
Not taking anything away from Fleeners. Fleeners has a decent team.
All right. Next up, we got RG3 or Charles in Charge. You might have to change your abbreviation. You might have to go to CIC as your abbreviation. So we got Charles in Charge against Fresh Legs. You get the win here. You get the win against a weak Fresh Legs team that really didn't have much output at all. Just looking for some hope on Fresh Legs' side. If it wasn't for Roethlisberger and a ton of junk points down at the end. I mean, I'm just looking at that production.
I was not comfortable at all going into this game, and I picked up a tight end, Charles Clay, who I really didn't know anything about. I just saw his numbers, and I picked him up, and I was hoping he'd do something, and he actually did have a good game for me. But Jimmy Graham, 100 receiving yards on 2 receiving touchdowns.
On 4 catches.
On 4 catches. I mean, come on. The guy's sick. Jimmy Graham, I would love to have Jimmy Graham. So, Tommy, if you're listening, look at my team. Make me an offer for Jimmy Graham.
So let's talk about C.J. Spiller here. He's your keeper, and in the 10th round right now, it looks phenomenal. But for a guy who was rated to be definitely a top 10 back, if not a top 5 back, you must say he's disappointed you.
Oh my God, that words don't even that doesn't even begin to
justify. How you feel
I don't
right
even
now?
know I can't even explain it. But again, it's early. But yeah, he's been a big letdown. I was really high on Spiller,
and he got a little nicked up in the game.
He got a couple boo-boos.
So we'll see if he plays tonight. All right, next game. El Canuto against Hammer Down. Hammer Down gets on a roll here. That's it's 2 in a row.
195.62. There's the winning numbers right there.
And this whole week was Drew Brees, Darren Sproles, and Torrey Smith with a little bit of Lamar Miller in there.
And Niners defense helped them.
Yeah.
But still, 195 points when you're getting
second highest score of the week.
Yeah, and you're only getting 4 points from Darren McFadden.
Yeah. Now El Canuto, on the other hand, has a big game from Tony Gonzalez to give him a little bit of cushion going into Monday night, but it clearly wasn't enough.
Drew Brees and Sproles. That was a fantasy owner's ultimate dream. It was
double dip.
It was
kind of
Brees,
nice.
Sproles,
and
all
Graham
night long.
And Graham. All right, so The one thing that really jumps out at me this year is, let's talk about MJD for just a little bit here. Look at these numbers. I mean, the one game against Seattle, that was just all junk time. Seattle was up about 42-0 in that game, and Jones-Drew, I believe they got a turnover in that game, and he converted the short touchdown. But for a guy that goes in the second round, the third round, to get 8, 6, and then 7 points, is it over? And now this past week they just traded away their starting left tackle to Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean,
I
was never really high on
MJD.
So I mean,
I'm
I'm not surprised by these numbers. I'm really not.
I mean, I got the guy in another league, and he hasn't even sniffed the starting lineup yet because there's nothing there in Jacksonville that can really get you excited. He's a fantastic back, but he's just on a really, really bad team. All right. Next up, ABC against Dos Fecas. Dos Fecas gets the win here. After an average showing by Colin Kaepernick on Thursday night against the Rams, he only gets 21. But then, come Sunday, his whole team picks him up.
Yeah, I mean, he only gets 14 out of McCoy. But I think I said on the last podcast that he needed Dez Bryant and Larry Fitzgerald to have big games. I mean,
he got 27 and 18 respectively.
Yeah, so I mean, Dez Bryant 27. That was a nice. That was a good game. This Giovanni Bernard guy. I mean, he's
16 from Bernard.
Solid 16 points. I mean, that's more than what I'm getting out of Spiller. I'm getting like 12 out of Spiller every game.
Right.
12, 13 points out of Spiller, and you're getting 16 from a backup.
Yeah, let's take a look at his numbers.
Yeah, take a look at his numbers because he's going to be, as the season moves forward, he's going to be.
He had 5 in week 1 against Chicago. Now you really can't expect a lot week 1 because you don't know his role.
Right.
And obviously Cincinnati really didn't know what to do with him.
He only had 4 rushing attempts.
Right. But move ahead, he's got 22, 22, and now 16.
Yeah,
the guy's got to be stapling your lineup, and he's clearly better than the law firm. So
what are his numbers?
The law firm?
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't even know. I know he has at least 1 touchdown on the year.
Who does he play for? Who
owns
has
him?
in fantasy?
I believe it's Palladino Licious, unless they dropped him. Here he is. Green Ellis. 13, 14, 9, and now 2.
Oh.
So clearly Gio is
Giovanni
becoming
Bernard.
the guy.
Well, look at his rush attempts. I mean,
right. It's just not there anymore. It's not there.
Gio will be the guy
law
by the end
firm,
of the year.
If he's not already the guy now. But, ABC gets huge performance by Peyton Manning, 44 points. Now, the one thing that I have noticed, after Peyton Manning's huge 77-point performance in week 1, he's gone off for, I believe, it's like 38, 44, and 44. Drew Brees, other than that week, I believe it was week 2 against the Bucs where he had a bad game, Drew Brees has lit it up for 40, 38, and now 60. So in my eyes, Drew Brees is the best fantasy quarterback out there. Better than Peyton Manning by the end of the year.
They're right now. They're probably close to tied. But I mean, Drew Brees probably has them by a couple.
The Saints have no
points.
running game. If you watch that game, they could not run the ball.
No, they can't. I mean, Denver doesn't run the ball either.
Right.
But I mean, they don't have to when they have 2 top-notch quarterbacks.
Right.
I see they're in a totally different league. I see Manning, Drew Brees, and Aaron Rodgers, and then you go down, and then it's like another league of quarterbacks. It's like those
Another
are the
level.
top 3, yeah,
Another
those are
tier.
the top 3 guys. And I mean,
but I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think Drew Brees is probably the best quarterback in fantasy, and will be for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I have no argument for it.
I mean, you're splitting hairs.
Yeah, you are.
But,
I mean, look at Peyton's numbers here.
Yeah.
Peyton and
but that's against a horrible Eagles defense. I mean, that game wasn't. I think Peyton probably could have thrown for 4. I mean, they took him out in the fourth quarter. He didn't even finish the game.
Oh, I know.
And he still winds up getting 44 fantasy points.
Yeah, the Eagles can't guard anybody.
And the final game. Foster, Australian for championship. We were ready to write this guy off 2 weeks
I
ago,
know.
and he comes back and he gets his second.
Arian Foster must have been mad about the comments that I made at the end of the last podcast because he was up 40.35 points.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, Australian for championship gets their
Arian Foster must have listened to this podcast.
podcast. Australian for championship gets their second high score. It's $40 in their pocket. They got production from everybody. Joe Flacco throws the ball 50 times, but throws 5 interceptions in that game.
That's great. 5 interceptions. There must have been a couple deflections or 5 interceptions. If I'm a coach and a quarterback throws 4 interceptions, he's out of the game.
And you know that game directly impacted yours because Flacco throwing the ball, Ray Rice only got 5 touches against you.
Oh yeah,
well, and the game was close. It's not even like
Baltimore
was really down.
Fresh Legs started Bernard Pierce anyway.
Yeah,
and I think he
didn't do anything. I think he had 4 rushing attempts. Talk about going back in time. Antonio Gates, he's like a fantasy zombie. He just comes back from the dead and look at these numbers for Antonio Gates.
10 receptions.
10 receptions. Look at these numbers. 22, 16, and 35 from your tight end. From a guy
that's the kind of numbers you need from a tight end. That's
right.
That's how teams win with tight ends.
And it's just amazing numbers for a guy that wasn't even rated not in my top 10 coming into the season. But double tight end set, tough week. You have the 3rd highest points, and you lose.
Gosh, yeah, I know. I'll tell you what. I'm 4-0 right now, and I think I had 1 week where I might have been the 2nd leading scorer, and I'm just getting lucky, I guess,
right.
by the team that I'm playing.
It's the luck of the schedule. It's the luck of the schedule. I mean, for double tight end set, you get production up and down the lineup. I mean, the only thing that you could really be mad at is Julius Thomas getting 8.3, but I mean, when you're getting that kind of production from the rest of your lineup, it's just a tough break. It's just a tough break.
And now double tight end set has to play Charles in charge at 4-0 without Adrian Peterson
and Alfred Morris.
Wow. So another maybe it's gonna be.
So speaking of that, let's just keep this thing rolling, and let's look at this week's games. Okay, so first up is my game, obviously, just because I'm logged in. So I got my whole new team going this week. And possibly Gronk coming. Well, Gronk's definitely going to come over, but if he's in the lineup.
Got anybody going tonight?
No, nobody going tonight. Nobody going tonight.
I'm going against Jordan Cameron tonight.
Are you?
Yeah.
So I'm playing
another solid tight end.
And I'm playing El Canuto, who has, I believe, when I was looking earlier, they have 3 Monday nighters. So this will be a long game stretched out through the week, and I'm gonna. This is the week. This is the David Wilson week, and I keep telling you that I believe in the guy's talent. They started to go to him last week.
I hope so, because Danny Amendola is going to come back strong.
If you look at David Wilson's numbers, all the carries are starting to go up. He went from 7 in week 1 when he got benched. Then he went to 7 the next week in a blowout loss to Denver where they clearly weren't going to run the ball. He had 11 in Carolina. He had a touchdown called back in that game. And then he gets 13 out in KC. And they just cut Darrell Scott this week. So he's clearly the back now.
The thing that concerns me the most, though, is Giants are getting blown out in games.
Yeah.
So they have to throw the ball. They're not going to be running the ball much.
Right.
Unless that changes, and I don't see it changing anytime soon because they look absolutely terrible. I mean, who knows?
Well,
one more fumble. I'll tell you this: one more fumble from David Wilson. He probably doesn't see another snap all year.
Well, I'm rolling the dice.
Tom Coughlin doesn't play around.
I'm rolling the dice at 1 and 3, and I'm going with David Wilson this week. And, all right, here we go. We got that Australian for championship with Aaron Rodgers going against Hammer Down with Drew Brees.
It's a big test for Hammer Down right here.
This
obviously
game,
Foster is one of the top-notch team. 3-1.
At 3-1,
putting up close to 200 points almost every game.
And Hammer Down at 2-2. This game is for first place in the division.
This is a big game for Hammer Down. Big game for Hammer Down.
Big game.
Absolutely. This might be.
You got a prediction on this game? So let's take a look at this game. So we got Foster and Edelman with Amendola possibly back this
Aaron
week.
Rodgers and Drew Brees. Wow.
Yeah.
Two top-notch quarterbacks going at it. Got Arian Foster, who apparently was pissed off at me last week, so he decided to put up 40. I mean, Darren Sproles' game last week. Does Darren Sproles have a game like that?
No.
Every week?
No,
Was that like
not every week. Not every week, but I think you can bank
had-
on 18 to 22 points from Darren Sproles a week, especially in our format with being PPR. In my opinion, this week, Hammer Down's whole scoring is going to revolve around tonight's game. What does Josh Gordon do?
He's
What
a
does
good
Josh
receiver.
Gordon do? The guy's getting like 15 to 18 targets a game.
He's on tonight?
He's on tonight. So Hammer Down's going to have a pretty good feeling about where he's at.
Look at his bench.
Yeah,
It's like a hospital. It's like an emergency room.
he dropped Shane Vereen 2 weeks ago. Then he went back and got him. And now Shane Vereen's just in a wheelchair sitting on his bench. Along with Danny Amendola, Darren McFadden. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad injury-wise for Hammer Down. But he has a fighting chance because he has Drew Brees. Next up is your game. We got Charles in charge against double tight end set. We already talked about it. I mean, you have C.J. Spiller, and C.J. Spiller is on the bench for you.
Yes, he is. I picked up this Tompkins guy. Has been, I know Kev had him. He dropped him. But I really feel like he's starting to really get confident now. He's starting to come along. And I think Tom Brady sees that. And I think he's going to be their top wide receiver.
So Kenbrell Dropkins is now Kenbrell Tompkins.
Tompkins, yes.
Tompkins, because now he's catching the football. And Frank Gore is just steady for you. But that double tight end set, they just they go out and get Tony
They
Romo
put
this
points.
week.
They put
And you
points
got
up.
Tony Romo against Denver, so you know he's going to be throwing the ball the
Yeah.
entire game, playing catch up. It could be possible junk points. And then they got the Thomas twins still, so we'll see what happens this week. The only thing I don't really like is that Jason Snelling start.
Yeah, I mean, no other options, I guess.
Okay.
All his teams on bye.
Yeah.
Five-
and
five
and you already mentioned the guy to watch, Jordan Cameron tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you talking on draft day about how high you were on this guy, and I didn't really buy into it. But I mean,
Yeah. I just waited too long to get him, and yeah, and that's it. Next up, we got Fresh Legs at Dos Fecas. Dos Fecas at 2-2. Fresh Legs at 1-3. Fresh Legs needs a win this week. I mean, at 1-4, are you almost done? I know I'm staring at it in the face, and that's the way that I look at it.
I mean, it's no fun.
Yeah.
It's not going to be any fun to come
No.
down from. But I mean, I don't think he's done. I mean, he needs a win though.
He
does
needs Ray
need a win.
Rice. If Ray Rice gets rolling, and Hakeem Nicks comes off the milk carton, he's got a chance in this game. But
And the whole Sproles Knicks trade, I thought it was a fair trade. I mean, Knicks. He's just
at
not,
the time they had the same points.
It's
but
Manning's just not getting him the ball. I don't know
Right.
what. Like I said earlier, I don't know what's going on in New
York.
York, but Hakeem Nicks, he's a good wide receiver. It's just that's what happens with trades. I mean, you trade a guy and has an unbelievable game. And
Right.
It's just, and then the other guy has a shitty game. It's just it's a chance that you take when you make a trade. But I didn't have any objections towards that trade. I thought it was a pretty
fair trade.
fair
at the time.
trade.
And the last game, we got ABC against Taking You to the Fleeners. So here we go again, Peyton Manning and Deshaun Jackson. And now he's got Brandon Marshall along with Matt Forte. A lot of Bears on that team. He's double dipping on the Bears. He's got the Bears D, he's got Matt Forte, and he's got Brandon Marshall. And he's also going to roll with his newly acquired tight end, Vernon Davis. So this is a whole new week for ABC to see what he's got. And then on the other side, you got Taking You to the Fleeners. If the trade goes through, they're going to plug in Andre Johnson, most likely for Tavon Austin, who's just been a fantasy bust this year.
Yeah. Everybody talking real high on him, and
Right, and he hasn't done anything. He's a guy. He's like a Deshaun Jackson. He's got to get the ball in space and then blow by people. He's not gonna shake and bake and make his own plays. So we didn't do any predictions. So let's work our way back here. Who you like in this game? I'm gonna.
Me, ABC.
I'll take the Fleeners. I'll take the Fleeners this week. Fresh legs or Dos Fecas?
Those factors.
Sweep it. Are you going to pick against yourself?
Absolutely not. Charles in charge. 5-0. Bring it.
I'm going to have to agree with you, especially with all their guys on bye. I'm going to roll with Charles in charge this week. Here's the first place game.
This is it's a tough one.
You want Rodgers against the Lions and most likely a shootout, or Drew Brees in a shootout against the Bears.
You know what? It's going to be a close one, I think.
I'm going to take Australian for championship, only for the reason that we've been doubting them all season. They have 2 high scores, so clearly they got something going on over there.
Clearly they put up points.
Right, so they got something going on over there. So who are you going to go with this week?
Absolutely. Well, if I'm a betting man, I would have to lean
Straight up,
towards-
no points.
I'm going to lean towards Foster.
All right,
You got Aaron Rodgers, all fresh, coming off of a bye week.
2 weeks to prepare.
2 weeks to prepare.
Are they coming off a loss? Was their last game against Cincinnati? That was the game. Yeah, he lost at Cincinnati with that fumble at the end that Cincinnati returned. So Aaron Rodgers in a shootout with the double dip to Randall Cobb.
Yeah.
And I just think Victor Cruz is having just an unbelievable year, and now he gets the Eagles at home. So I'm going to roll with Australian for championship. And then the last game, I got to take me. But this is a battle of just 2 bad teams right now. 1-3 against 1-3. I'm going to roll with my new team. I don't make all those moves and then,
Well, I mean, I like your pickup in Bilal Pale and Trent Richardson. Hopefully he turns the season around. I mean,
like if you look at Trent Richardson's
maybe
numbers.
he just had to get comfortable with the new offense.
He's only been there 2 weeks.
Right.
And in the 2 weeks he's been there, he scored. So he went from 12 points to 18 points. The week before that in Cleveland, he had 17.
I mean, he had 20 rush attempts on week 4. So, I mean,
Only
that's probably
60
only going
yards.
to go up.
Right. So, especially now with possibly Bradshaw being gone.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Optimus this week.
Okay. I'm going to go with Optimus as well because it's me. El Canuto, best of luck. And that pretty much does it for this week. I know it was a little long, but we tried some new format with the screen. Bills and Browns tonight. If you listen to the podcast before the game starts, sorry again for being so late. So get your Bills and Browns in your lineup if you have any. And don't forget, give me your league dues. And we'll see everybody next week. Peace out.
Later.